Yeah, I don't know how it started happening, but just while we were making the record, people started talking, and some people would drop by the studio, people would call us, people would call my parents' house. It was kind of a trip. Like I said, we drove to New York City to make that record, and when it was done, we were like, okay, cool, like we have a record, now what? Even though it was, we were signed and we were on Doghouse, it's not like we just got in the van and went and started playing shows. It's like, okay, well, not only do they have to come up with like some sort of marketing strategy to release this thing, but there was talk of maybe upstreaming it to a major, and that, that takes fucking time. So we drove back home to Oklahoma and we moved into a 1-bedroom garage apartment, all 4 of us, and there were bunk beds.
That's awesome.
The 4 of us slept in a couple pairs of bunk beds, and we just kind of waited for the phone to ring. I mean, we got like a local booking agent. We tried to keep playing as many shows as we could. We would drive down to Oklahoma City or even Dallas, up to Kansas City or Wichita, over to Lubbock. Just pretty much, I mean, when you're playing a bar, you're not going to get paid more than like 75 or 100 bucks. So we just pretty much went as far as that would buy us gas for. And I mean, we just, did as much as we could on our own until, well, we burned that garage apartment down because we had too many things plugged in. Oh, wow. It literally burned to the fucking ground. We had a couple like 4x12 cabinets in there with some Marshall heads and shit. And we learned the hard way that you can't have the stereo, the guitar amps, and the microwave working at the same time. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, so it literally burned down. I had to move back into my parents' house for a little bit, but that was spring of 2002, and then by the fall we were talking to Dreamworks. The record came out on Doghouse. We were on a couple tours. Like by that fall, things were going. Like we were only kind of waiting around for about 6 months. To answer your question, I mean, overnight success in the way that, yes, like our first single got on MTV, and
massive.
Later that year we were in a bus and headlining our own shows. Like yeah. I guess that's technically overnight, but I mean, no, like any hardworking band, I mean, we've been playing in bands, and I've been playing in this band at that point for 3 or 4 years. So yeah. So of course, when you're doing it and living it day to day, it doesn't feel like overnight at all. But I mean, yeah, we got lucky. First one out of the gate, like, did it for us. So
it's a banger. Swing Swing is an all-time song.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. It turns, oh shit, this fall will be 20 years since it was written.
Wow.
Insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rewinding a little bit on the album signing, was there any kind of showcase, or did they literally just get your demo and they're like, this is good to go, like, let's do this?
We did a couple of showcases. I mean, okay. This was 2002, and record labels were still cleaning house, by selling records. Yeah. Bands went on tour to promote the record. We never even made money on the road because we would spend all our money on production and stuff like that because we were selling records. So that being said, record labels were spending cash too. So they flew us out to New York and LA, and literally every 2 weeks during that 6-month period I was talking about, they would fly us, left and right, and take us out to fancy dinners. A couple labels took us to strip clubs. It was insane. Like that shit. I don't know if it happens anymore, but I haven't heard the stories. That's for sure. It was gnarly. Yeah, a fucking experience to say the least. But during that time, yeah, we did a couple showcases. Those never went well. They were fucking awful. Hated them.
Oh, no.
Terrible. Like, equipment wasn't working. Label executives would walk out in the middle of them. Like, they were fucking terrible. I wouldn't wish them on anyone. Dreamworks was different. They actually flew out to Oklahoma to see us, like, in our element.
Awesome.
And they flew out the entire fucking record company to Norman, Oklahoma to see us play in the... I kid you not, there was like 20 or 30 people I think they were just trying to kind of put on a show, I'm sure, but like they also wanted to kind of see what they were getting themselves into. You know, they flew out to this show. The PA never showed up, so we played open air acoustic. Wow. And the whole fucking label was there, but they still signed us. So I mean, I guess it wasn't that terrible. But yeah, they were cool. They were the most down to earth and chill. And our A&R guy there was just a great guy who he ended up flying out to several shows. He came to Kansas because he was from Kansas City. So he came to a couple shows out there. Just super down to earth people, and never had like the douchey LA experience that I was talking about earlier with them. Yes, there was a couple fancy dinners that we would, I remember flying home from LA once after they took us to the Palm or some shit. And we literally had leftovers in our bags flying home with like leftover steak and like setting off the fucking like the security alarm because like the steaks were wrapped in foil and it was like setting off the metal detectors. It was hilarious.
Hey, you guys are young. What do you expect, right?
Absolutely, man. I'd never had steak before. It was insane.
Well, and you never knew what it was like when that might go away, right? You got this one ride. You don't know if it's going to last forever. You might as well take advantage of it and take some steak home with you.
Totally. I don't even know if I was that self-aware. Like, I knew I was lucky, and it was like one in a million, like getting to experience something like this, but I was just being a shithead. I was like, man, this is good food. I'm not going to get to eat this tomorrow. So let's fucking order some more and take it home. Yeah. And in every record label we went to, we got to raid like the fucking CD cabinet. So I remember I ended up going on these trips with an extra bag. It's like when you like tour Japan, they tell you to like go with an extra, like an empty suitcase because all the souvenirs and gifts you're going to get.
Yep.
I literally started doing that when we would fly to see record labels. Cause I would come home with like the entire fucking Rolling Stones catalog and like just it's insane. Like kids that sign record deals now, they don't get the swag like we did. Like that fucking I mean, maybe you get download cards. I don't know, but
maybe
my CD collection is
Post them on
my
Reddit.
CD collection is my CD collection is the size that it is because of those trips.
Yeah. But it was harder for you to get signed because it's harder for you to get found out back then too because the internet and all that. So it's kind of a double-edged sword.
You're right.
You earned all those CDs.
Goddamn right. Yeah.
Did you have a 90s high definition TV kind of third person like, oh, this is like playing out like a fucking movie right now? Did you have like any moment like that when you were getting signed and all that stuff? Like, man, this is exactly like Almost Famous. Is this real life?
I don't know. I've probably had a moment like that since then, but not at the time. At the time, I just kind of got swept up in. It kind of just felt like, I don't know, like it was a dream, but I didn't know I was dreaming, kind of thing. Like, it was kind of, I was young and fucking stupid. Like I was just kind of along for the ride, and I'm sure I took a lot of it for granted at the time, but I certainly don't now. And I mean, just looking back and telling the stories, I'm like, fuck, I can't believe that was real. Like,
yeah.